I was working this week with a family, parents of a child who has ADHD. He's 10 years old and he has poor communication skills, so he ends up being annoying sometimes. So I want to share with you some of the things they're working on because they're so successful with this boy. He's feeling more hopeful, and I think you'll find them beneficial for any child. I'm Dr. Scott Taransky, and I love helping parents think strategically about helping their children change instead of just being reactive parents, just responding to life situations, but being strategic as we're moving forward. So we're trying to help this young man at 10 years old learn how to communicate better, because he tends to come into the room and interrupt and take over the room with his voice because of his impulsivity and so on. So the first thing they did was they taught him how to come into a room and stop, look, and listen before they engage. And when he comes into the room and starts talking, they would just put their hand up and say, whoop, go back out and try again. So the first thing they're teaching him is how to listen instead of how to talk. The second thing they taught him was how to ask questions and then follow-up questions. What that means is that the child asked me a question and then asked me a follow-up question about it. He had a real hard time with this at first because he thinks about himself. And when you tell him something in answer to his question, he's thinking about what he wants to say about that subject. But when a child learns to ask a follow-up question, they're focusing in on the other person and allowing them to speak. A great way to help children to be able to respond. Another thing he did was he tended to whine or complain. Mom said to him, no, we're not going to whine and complain. You need to think of a way to communicate that and focusing on the solution, not on the problem. And so the child would ask for something instead of just complaining about something. And so we would think in terms of solutions instead of problems. And this was helping the child come out of his self-focused tendencies as well. In all of these things, we're trying to help our children learn to think differently about the way they talk. Our talking says a lot about our hearts, says Jesus, that it's out of the heart that the mouth speaks. And so if we can teach children to be others-centered, it can help them greatly. Sometimes a child with ADHD tends to be more self-focused, and teaching them how to communicate can help them move out of that into being a more servant attitude as they're working with other people.